The first trailer for Grand Theft Auto 6 gave us a lot of detail to pore over. The new Vice City looks amazing, and as expected for Rockstar, the amount of detail and effort put into the in-game world is astounding. Among the numerous shots we got of the game in action, several scenes were from the point of view of some form of in-game media. There's a few shots that look like TV news broadcasts, and then you got another that looks like police body cam footage, and then a bunch of cell phone videos on a social media platform. It's an interesting way to portray the game, and it definitely gives it a more modern feel. But then people began noticing that several scenes in the game that we saw in the trailer are actually very familiar. Familiar enough that they seem to be directly inspired by real-life events and people. So in this video, we're going to take a look at a few of these, starting with this dashing gentleman. He appears on an in-game TV channel called Mega Noticias. With his crazy-looking tattoos and hair that is definitely not his natural color, people immediately realize that this guy is based on none other than Lawrence Sullivan, more infamously known as the Miami Joker. It's basically him, but with purple hair instead of green hair. In fact, this shot in the game is almost exactly the same as video of the real-life guy's court appearance, right down to the huge county sheriff's badge behind him. In real life, he was there because he was accused of pointing a gun at passing vehicles, and when the cops picked him up, they also found that he didn't have any permits for the gun, which is a big no-no, even in a state that's as gun-friendly as Florida. Here he is talking to the judge about whether or not he wants a public defender.
Your Honor, I'm being told that Mr. Sullivan is declining services of the public.
Is declining services. Is that correct, sir?
She's talking to you. She's asking you.
You don't want the public defender's office to represent you?
I mean, you can represent me, but I'm trying to get bonded out, my honor.
You know, for a guy called the Joker, he doesn't even sound creepy. He sounds more like this is all just a slight inconvenience to his day.
Well, they're there to help you, sir. You don't have a lawyer.
All right.
I mean, okay, so...
I didn't even feel like signing the paperwork. I'm really not in the mood for that.
It's like he's at a doctor's office and they just hit him with another form to fill out. He wound up getting 2 years probation and he earned himself a spot in the new Grand Theft Auto, although evidently I heard he's not very happy about this and he's now demanding about $1 million from Rockstar. But let's see how that all plays out. And by the way, that's also only half the story with this shot in the game. Since they made it look like it came from a news broadcast, they included some text at the bottom describing what's happening. Basically, it's saying that one of the guy's tattoos contained proof that he committed a crime that he's being charged with. For that, I think they were influenced by another case that happened a long time ago out of LA. The year was 2008. Detective Sergeant Kevin Lloyd of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department was working on a case that required him to pore over pictures of gang members with tattoos when he came across photographs of known gang member Anthony Garcia. Garcia got busted for driving with a suspended license that year, and when they took his mugshot, they also needed pictures of his tattoos. Now, when Detective Lloyd saw this picture of Garcia, something about it caught his eye. Maybe at first he thought, wow, that guy paid money for this? Looks like a 10-year-old drew that. Maybe then he wondered why some gangster guy would get a tattoo of what appears to be Stone Cold Steve Austin about to murder Mr. Peanut. Then he probably wondered why someone would get a tattoo of Mr. Peanut being shot by an attack helicopter shark. Then he probably wondered why anybody would get a tattoo of a random liquor store. I mean, why not just get a Walgreens tattoo while you're at it? But then this guy's ink reminded Detective Lloyd of a homicide case from a few years before that went unsolved. Now, it turns out that Garcia knew quite a lot about what happened there. He was the murderer, and he was so sure he got away with it that he idiotically and rather disturbingly got the murder scene tattooed on his chest. It didn't exactly take Columbo to figure it out. There's all kinds of symbolism within the tattoo that pretty much gave it away. Garcia's nickname on the street was Chopper, and there's an attack helicopter with teeth shooting Mr. Peanut. I don't know what he had against Mr. Peanut, but apparently Peanut is slang for a rival gang member. Supposedly. And this scene is all taking place outside of a liquor store, which just so happened to resemble the liquor store that the real-life shooting took place at. He even had the lamppost across the street drawn on here. It's so weird because it looks like a demented 4th grade art class drawing, but then it had weird and needless detail to it. It's like he snitched on himself. And that is how a crappy tattoo led to a previously unsolved murder being solved. And now Garcia has the rest of his life to sit in prison and maybe get a few new tattoos based on other events in his life. Moving on from that, we were also shown a few clips that look like they've been lifted straight from social media, because they were. Remember this lady twerking on top of a moving vehicle? Turns out someone in Miami actually did that at one point. And how about the weird old lady dual-wielding hammers? Well, that was based on a video out of Los Angeles, California, featuring a very weird, very angry, and at times very xenophobic dispute between neighbors.
You f***ing
Yep.
Now that didn't happen in Florida, but it was something that Rockstar obviously thought suited the Sunshine State anyway. Then you've got things like all the guys riding around on dirt bikes, intersection takeovers, which is the kind of stuff that you see in a lot of cities across America these days, but it's definitely happening in Miami too. Another detail that Rockstar nailed about Miami is the abundance of thongs in the general public, including on this old guy watering his lawn. Now this was most likely based on two separate stories that both happened in Florida. One in northern Florida and one in South Florida, although neither guys involved actually had anything covering them. They just decided they would go outside naked to mow the lawn. Now this left the neighbors pretty angry.
I look over and he's bent over, winding up his hose, and that's my view of my neighborhood.
Buck naked and talk to a police officer, sheriff's department. Sheriff's department told me to turn my head.
But it turns out that not much could be done about it because A, neither individual was performing any inappropriate act, and B, they're both on their own property. As far as the state of Florida is concerned, they're well within their rights to feel the gentle breeze of a leaf blower. And just watch it with those hedge clippers. Our last clip is maybe a bit of a stretch, but I was reminded of it nonetheless when I saw this shot in the GTA 6 trailer. You have a Fox News helicopter over the scene of the aftermath of a police chase, a flipped-over SUV, and the Florida Highway Patrol is on the scene and dragging the perp out the windshield. This is a scene that has likely taken place many times across Florida over the years, so it might not be too unique. But I had only just seen the video it reminded me of a few months ago, so I might as well share it here. Hollywood, Florida. Police were called around 7 in the morning to a house that was being burglarized with people still inside. The suspects, a group of teenagers, wound up stealing a car from the home's garage and took off with it. They ended up hitting a bicyclist and injuring him before they got onto I-95, with police and a news chopper following. At first, everything seemed about as straightforward as it could be for a high-speed chase. And for rush hour, traffic wasn't as heavy as it could have been in the lanes that they were in. Now they're still weaving in between lanes to avoid other cars and trucks, but they're surprisingly mostly keeping it under control. Until the driver made a rookie mistake and forgot to check his blind spot. Okay, that is not good. The suspects basically caused a small pileup. And to make things a little worse, innocent people were involved. First they bumped into the blue SUV, which then hit a second SUV. And then all three of them lost control. You can actually see the airbags going off. And when one of the SUVs that they hit spun out of control across several lanes, they got T-boned by another vehicle. You can see this happen more clearly in the dashcam video from a police car. Now I know what you're thinking. This does not look good for anyone. And the crashes don't even end there. Another cop car smacks into the suspect's vehicle, and then the blue SUV that first got hit ended up hitting that cop car. Multiple people were taken to the hospital after this. Thankfully, nobody was killed, and there were also no life-threatening injuries. But it does suck that it even had to happen, especially when innocent people end up getting caught in this type of situation. And that is just one of many real-life videos that look like something out of GTA. The game is just a work of fiction, but fiction is often influenced by reality. And you know what they say too, reality can be stranger than fiction. This becomes very apparent when you start reading the news. I mean, tell me, how does this not feel like satire? And why is it that every time somebody claims to catch an alien on video, it's like all they had was a cell phone camera from 2005 to film it with? So because Rockstar are trying to make their worlds even more realistic than before with each game, why not put this stuff in Grand Theft Auto? What do you think now about all the real-life influences that we've seen for the trailer? Do you think the aftermath of that police chase influenced this shot in the trailer? What are your thoughts on the Miami Joker demanding money out of Rockstar? Do you think they might be influenced by more true crime stories this time around? Especially when how it looks like the story's main influence is Bonnie and Clyde. And would you like to see more real-life videos that seem like they're straight out of GTA? Let me know your thoughts, and thank you for watching.
I didn't even feel like signing the paperwork. I'm really not in the mood for that.